The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website at agingpartners@lincoln.ne.gov.
Have you ever become a victim of a scam? I'm Kristen Stows, and today on Live and Learn, we're going to find out just how easily that can happen and what we can do about it. With Ryan Sothen, Consumer Outreach Coordinator from the Office of the Attorney General. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the chance to be here.
Absolutely. Ryan, you and the Attorney General have definitely made a priority in monitoring elder fraud and assisting its victims. Have you seen an increase in this kind of crime?
We have indeed, and you're quite correct. The Attorney General throughout his time in office has placed his highest priority on protecting Nebraska's most vulnerable citizens, and nowhere is that vulnerability greater than within our senior population. According to the most recent data available to us, which is data that comes through the Federal Trade Commission in its annual Sentinel report, reflecting input from across all 50 states from the Attorney's General offices, as well as other consumer reporting agencies, senior fraud in terms of complaints registered. Seniors accounted for 26% of all fraud complaints.
Really?
Ironically, seniors represent but 13% of our overall population. So at a 26% rate of reporting, we can see that relative to their appearance and population, they're reporting at twice the going rate.
My goodness, my goodness. I do think we have a slide on fraud complaints that we can show that kind of gives a bar graph.
Very good.
That shows how the age affects those complaints. How does this kind of abuse impact a senior in particular?
You know, the reactions and impact of elder financial abuse are varied and ironically not fully known. And I say that primarily for the reason that according to a recent study by the University of Colorado, 1 out of every 5 incidences of fraud are reported by seniors.
Okay.
Reasons for that lack of reporting are many and varied as well, based on the senior's dependence on family members and not wanting to report or turn in those family members,
Sure.
fear of consequences, and other related factors. But in terms of impact, 2 come immediately to mind. One is a prevalent condition that is a consistent predictor of financial mistreatment is depression. And once a senior is victimized, it further exacerbates that condition of depression, which is showing up in about 61% of all such cases.
So there really can be a correlation.
There can indeed be a correlation.
Yes.
And one of the most surprising and to me shocking impacts was from a study called the Mortality of Elder Mistreatment, which tracked specifically in terms of financial abuse of seniors compared to self-neglect and non-abused seniors, that there was a decided impact on mortality in that at the end of the 12-year study period, those who had been subject to such financial abuse had the highest rate of overall mortality.
Really?
So reporting and dealing with this type of abuse is essential
Absolutely.
to life itself.
Sure, sure. No, that's really amazing. Let's start talking about some specific scams in order of their prevalence, and the first one would be via email. Could you give us just 3 or 4 examples of this kind of scam?
I'd be happy to, and I want to make sure that we distinguish the types of senior fraud from the channels by which they're communicated. You're quite right in pointing out email, because according to the same survey, the FTC Sentinel report, email showed up as the most prevalent channel by which scam offers were communicated.
Okay.
And in terms of some of those scams, to answer your question more directly, we see such things as what we call the Nigerian 419 scam. We have phishing-related scams, and then also scams where someone is misrepresenting their identity. I'll call them the Windows Help Desk types of scams, and I'll just expound on each very, very briefly. The Nigerian 419 scam is the type of communique where you will hear that some high-ranking official or potentate in a foreign country is needing to flee for fear of persecution, and they therefore want to transfer their great wealth out of the country, and they have picked you, lucky recipient, to help them, and for your favor, they will pay you handsomely in kind a portion of the proceeds. The phishing scam is typically the type of communique that will come from a known and trusted source, ostensibly your bank or someone else that you have a financial relationship with, indicating that access to your account has been suspended for reasons of suspected security breach, fraud,
that would
or
tend
other.
to panic you.
That would
Yes.
tend to panic, a sense of urgency, and you're
Yes.
going to be tempted to reply in line in that email, and you need to stop, think, disengage, pick up the telephone perhaps, call and inquire, is this true, has there been a breach?
Yes.
And not provide the personal identifying information that they're probing for in order to have your account access restored. Then we've seen a number of complaints for those seniors who are savvy and on their computers where they're getting notices by email, sometimes by phone, that something might be wrong with their computer. The Windows Help Desk or Service Center or Tech Support Center has contacted them identifying potential malware or virus on their computer and that they need to click on an embedded link in order to remove that threat.
I see, I see. Well, and we all have difficulty with our computers, so we can all
do indeed.
identify with that. So is the easiest way to handle these just to delete them? Certainly don't open any links and just...
I would concur
Yes.
in those rules, but recognize with all frauds, if you receive an offer, for example, like the Nigerian 419, an offer that sounds too good to be true,
Definitely.
generally speaking, it is. If it is an email, to your point, where you don't recognize the sender, I would be very cautious about opening that email. Furthermore, if there is an embedded link inviting you to click on that link for more information or to
definitely
take
do not
action,
do that.
definitely do not do that.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. Well, the second means that a scam could be perpetrated would be over the telephone. Again, could you tell us about maybe the top 3 or 4 scams that are using the phone?
Okay. Telephone comes in second in terms of popularity as a channel to be exploited by our scam artists. It comes in at 34% of all reported scams. And the type of scams that we're seeing perpetrated on the telephone, first of all, I will call generally telemarketing fraud. Not that there's anything wrong with the telemarketing industry, but the telemarketing related fraud that I'm speaking of is such things as merchandise or special offers. Merchandise, for example, could be, and these were the things that were reported to me at the state fair and other county fairs attended throughout the course of the summer, such things as congratulations, you have won a luxury automobile, or some other type of high-value, big-ticket item that is coming to you basically free of charge, save for tax title documentation fees or other service and administration fees, which they're seeking immediate payment thereof.
Sure.
There also is a very popular scam known as the imposter or grandparent scam, where perhaps the senior gets a call in the middle of the night as they pick up the phone in a sense of panic, because when was the last time you got good news delivered by phone in the middle of the night, where the person on the other end will say, Grandma, Grandpa, it's me. And you, the senior, will be searching your mental data bank going, whose voice is that? Who does it sound? And you might volunteer the name of the beloved grandchild. And what happens is that they're calling you to convey, the scam artist is calling you to convey, that they are in a foreign country, have encountered trouble, and you need your financial assistance in order to bail them out of trouble. And would
So
you
they're
please
preying
wire
on your
money?
emotions there.
Exactly. Preying on your emotions entirely. The third type, and I need to be careful here because there is an exemption to the National Do Not Call list. Charities are allowed to call, even if you're on the National Do Not Call.
Okay, that's
but
an
we
important
do
point.
see charity fraud in that there are a number of charities with sound-alike names who are preying on your goodwill to make an immediate, again, emotionally based decision when largely these are professional fundraising organizations designed to benefit themselves as opposed to the actual charity. So individuals need to be very careful about the potential for charity fraud.
And there are wonderful websites available to go online to actually research charities before you give. CharityNavigator.org is one, but I know that there are many others.
You're right, there are many others. CharityNavigator.org is outstanding. Give.org would be another. GuideStar.org, yet another.
They actually give tips to people before they give their money.
They do indeed.
Questions that you should be asking about, how their dollars are spent.
Indeed.
And it gives all that information. It's wonderful. On the Do Not Call registry, even if you sign up for the Do Not Call registry, quite often you still receive calls, and you have told me that there is a reason for that.
I have indeed. There are written-in exemptions in terms of political calls, charitable calls, and survey calls. But one of the primary reasons why defenses of the do not call do not work is that the scam call is the primary offender. The scam call in the main, or scam calls I should say in the main, are originating from outside of the United States. So Nebraska law, federal law does not apply. We, through our office, have traced many of these calls to Caribbean-based nations, Jamaica showing up prominently, the Dominican Republic showing up prominently. So again, they're flouting our laws because they don't apply, and then using technology to mask their identity and break through our defenses that way.
So they're getting around the system.
They are indeed.
Definitely. So what is the best way to handle a telephone call then?
Well, there are many things that you can put into play. Again, if the offer sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Furthermore, if there is a probe for personal identifying information, which there so often is, they want your social security number, banking account, financial related information. If you didn't originate the call, do not provide that information. We strongly advocate that individuals do sign up for and believe in the National Do Not Call, because at one time it used to expire. It also at one time did not accept cell phones. Now it accepts landlines and cell phones.
Wonderful.
And as long as you have the phone number and are at the same address, it will never expire.
Oh, that's a very good feature. I like that a lot. A third way a scam can take shape is through the U.S. mail. What are some of these scams?
Well, in the U.S. mail, this is probably where we see the preponderance of our foreign lottery and sweepstake offers coming in. And this is where you receive that offer too good to be true. Congratulations, you are the first, second, or third place winner in Pick Your Country foreign lottery.
Okay.
And that is one of the most frequently occurring and the most persuasive, believe it or not, because in terms of those scams, we see common red flags. The offer being too good to be true being the first, then a probe for personal identifying information, the need to take urgent action because there's a time-bound deadline, and then to transfer money immediately, typically by wire transfer or a prepaid debit card. These scams, these foreign lottery scams coming in by mail, typically have all four of those red flags present. So the first thing is to not believe in that type of offer. Second, contact resources like the Attorney General's office through our Consumer Protection Hotline and ask for us to weigh in validating whether or not the offer is legitimate or not.
Wonderful.
We are here as a resource to help and have trained personnel available to help the senior make that decision.
Yes, so that should be our first call.
Indeed.
to you.
I highly recommend that.
Could you say a little bit about door-to-door solicitations?
Door-to-door solicitations may not be quite as common as they were in days past, but they still occur with some frequency here in Lincoln and throughout Nebraska. Seniors should be aware that here in Lancaster County and through the city that any door-to-door peddler needs what's known as a peddler's license.
Okay.
That is a license that they procure through the city clerk's office for a $25 fee. It does involve a background check through the local police department and also conveys such things as the individual must have a clean criminal background check, must be 16 years of age or older, and also limits the hours of the day within which that door-to-door person can work. So ask for credentials, ask for that license anytime someone knocks on your door, and then
That's
is
such a
going to be
good thing to
selling it.
remember. It gives you something
Exactly.
to say right away.
Right away.
Yes, yes. And of course, there's nothing wrong with closing the door or hanging up the phone. I think we're all trained to not be rude, but sometimes you just have to just do that.
I could not agree with you more. I had a very amusing to me but pleasant conversation with a senior in one of our cities in western Nebraska who stopped me during the portion of the presentation and said, "Ryan, I was told by the telemarketer that it is against the law to hang up on the caller once they are mid-pitch."
Oh,
And
no.
I enjoyed the observation and the question, but you're always in control.
Oh,
You
yes.
can hang up. You
That's
need
right.
not worry about being rude. And just because the phone
Exactly.
rings doesn't mean you have to answer it.
That's very true. Well, Ryan, the unseen threat in all of this is identity theft. And I would like to have you address that issue just a little.
You're exactly right. All roads lead to identity theft is a saying that we're quite fond of within the Consumer Protection Division of the Attorney General's office because it proves to be true. Identity theft is the #1 consumer crime in America. Last year, it claimed 12.6 million new victims. But within the senior segment, which I'll define as age 60 and above, it showed a shocking increase of 35%.
Oh, my.
And so seniors are being preyed upon specifically.
Okay.
And therefore they need to know what the signs are so that they can detect, and then ultimately how to deter and defend against. The average take rate or victimization in terms of dollars lost is $5,100, but the senior will go in pocket for another $750 to $800
Oh, my.
to undo that damage, restore their good name and credit standing, and take on average 20 hours or more of their time in dribs and drabs of 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there for a call, a letter, whatnot, to again undo that damage.
Oh, that's terrible to hear about.
We
hate
want
that.
seniors to know that there are specific steps that they can take. They need to report that to local law enforcement and get a
Sure.
copy of that identity theft report.
Okay.
Then close all accounts and have them reissued, not with just new PIN numbers, but new account numbers as well. And then to immediately contact one of the 3 credit reporting agencies to have a fraud alert put on their account.
It's very important to check annualcreditreport.com.
It is indeed, because that will be another thing to make sure that there is an active identity theft underway, to immediately call on your free credit report and check for a number of recent inquiries.
Okay.
Any questions, again, regarding the procedures on identity theft, our #1 consumer-related crime, I encourage seniors to call the Attorney General's office.
And is it true that many times identity theft occurs by someone that knows the victim?
Sadly, that is true, because we have found through data, again, available to us, that in 1/3 of the cases, your identity thief is a family member or relative.
Really? Oh.
Then, as distressingly, another 18% of the time, it is a neighbor or friend neighbor or in-home employee. So that's half of all cases. Add in 4% assigned to co-workers, and then another 13% assigned to someone where you may do business and they have access to your personal information through their records, and there's a 2/3 chance that you know your identity thief.
Oh, that's unbelievable to me, honestly.
It's shocking to me as well.
Yeah, it really is. We have a couple of numbers to put on screen. They are there now, and this is who listeners can call if they feel that they have been a victim. Is this right?
That is correct, and I would encourage them on our Consumer Protection Hotline at 800-727-6432. That is live answer throughout the business day, and the Senior Fraud Hotline is 7 days a week at toll-free 888-287-0778, and we'll be sure to get back to them immediately. They can also access our website at ago.ne.gov and file a complaint that way.
So if we do call your office, can we be confident that your office does check into each and every complaint that comes your way?
Absolutely. We've manned and maintained our Consumer Protection Hotline for the past 11 years. And in terms of the volume of calls that we handle, we have managed anywhere from 3,500 to 5,000 cases on average annually,
Really?
returning over $1 million+ per year to Nebraskans.
That's mind-boggling to me. Ryan, thank you so much. It's wonderful to know there is someone in our corner when we become a victim of a scam.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for having me. And
Yes.
please, any senior, call the Attorney General's office. You have a friend in us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for
You're very
being
welcome.
here. Live and Learn will continue after this.
You know, as I go around this community and I see business practices, I'm always interested and intrigued when I find that a business has been in a family for 3 generations. And that's kind of unusual. So I've done some research on some of that, and viewers have said to me that they've enjoyed the programs that I've done and done a little history on some of these. So I did some digging, and I found out that one of Lincoln's businesses has been around for 115 years, SCHWARZ Paper Company. Been there in 3 generations in the family. So my guest today is a 3rd generation member of that business, and his name is Patrick Jones. Pat, thank you for coming and being on the Live and Learn show.
Well, Harlan, thank you for inviting me. Glad to be here, and let's talk about SCHWARZ Paper Company.
All right. Now, a member of the SCHWARZ family was involved for a number of years, but your grandfather worked for the company when they started there?
Not necessarily right when it started. The SCHWARZ family, I think Charles SCHWARZ was the original SCHWARZ member. He and his brother started the company back in 1899. It was located at 11th and N Street originally, and after 17 years it moved to where we are now, which is at 8th and O Street down in the Haymarket.
So it's been there for 100 years, pretty close.
Pretty close. My grandfather, I think, started to work for the SCHWARZ family probably in the 30s. I haven't really found an exact date. And then the SCHWARZ family, eventually, none of the SCHWARZ wanted to work there anymore. So my grandfather started in 1946 as president, and he was president until about 1970. And sometime in that time, from 46 to 70, I think in the 60s, the employees, including my father and others, bought out the SCHWARZ family.
All right. Now, then your father got involved, took over the business about when?
Well, my father, David Jones, he started there in 61 as a salesman, then was the sales manager, and then he took over the company as president in 1975 and remained president until 2000, and then he retired from there in 2000.
Okay. Now, the SCHWARZ family continued to be stockholders?
Yeah, for a lot of years, until actually recently. Most of the SCHWARZ family still resides out in Wyoming. Didn't have a lot of interest. None of the kids or grandkids wanted to run the company, so it switched hands, and I think they gave up their stock here in the last 10 years. So they had a presence with the company at least until then.
Okay, so they've been involved for a while.
Yeah.
Now, your father took over then in the 70s. How long did he operate the business?
Well, he was president from 75 to 2000, so was that 25 years, I guess, if my math is correct.
Okay.
And he's living here in Lincoln still and just enjoying retirement and playing golf.
Ah, good. Now, a business like this evolves with the needs of the community. What are some interesting things about the history that you folks have been involved with?
Well, it's pretty interesting. As a child, I remember going down in the late 60s, I guess, mid 60s, and playing with toys. And I had no idea at that point, up until that point, that SCHWARZ was a toys dealer. And it was one of the largest toys dealers in the Midwest and actually in the United States. And of course, as the box stores, the Walmarts and the Shopkos and the things came around, that became no longer a viable business. So they got out of the toy business probably in the early 70s. And for the most part now, we're a janitorial and office supply house.
Well, I see the catalog, and we're going to show a picture of that on the screen.
Okay.
The catalog of 1935, the Christmas. So after Christmas, you probably had a heyday going down and playing with the toys that were still left around, that sort of thing?
We did. Actually, I remember weekends when Father would go down to work in the office. We'd go down with him. Once again, this is the mid-60s, and we'd play with all the toy models and so on and so forth. And then at Christmas time, I'm pretty sure he brought home the toy models. So the Jones house was littered with toys that a lot of the other kids didn't have. So we were very fortunate with that as kids.
Well, in addition to now cleaning supplies, you sold fireworks at one time?
Yeah, and actually I didn't know that until I started doing research for this show, but SCHWARZ was the second largest firework distributor in the Midwest. That wasn't in my lifetime. That must have been back in the 30s and 40s, I would guess. I really found, other than one little pamphlet, I found no mention of fireworks in the warehouse anymore.
Well, focusing on cleaning supplies, you still provide restaurants and that sort of thing with food service items, silverware, well, not necessarily silverware, plasticware.
Yeah, we're for the most part, we're disposable items. So towels, toilet paper, napkins, plastic silverware, table cover, certainly the cleaning supplies, degreasers, sanitizers. These days, the hand sanitizers are really important for people because of all the germs out there. Hand soaps, floor finishes, pretty much all of the janitorial supplies.
Okay, now we know where your center of location is down in the Haymarket, but how far across the state of Nebraska did you go as far as sales representatives making calls and that sort of thing?
Well, back in the day when my father was there, we used to cover the entire state of Nebraska. In the last 20 years, we've kind of narrowed it down to where we're delivering with our own trucks now, and have been since my father took over. We go out as far as Myrna, Nebraska, Kearney. We go up north as far as Wayne, don't go into South Dakota, and then down into the border of Kansas and into Kansas a little ways. And then over towards Iowa, we go into Council Bluffs. And Omaha's pretty big for us, and of course Lincoln's our main base, and so the majority of our sales are here in Lincoln. I think one of the interesting things, or the areas where we specialize, are the custom meat butchers, which a lot of the small towns throughout Nebraska have, and we're one of their prime distributors, the wrapping papers and the cleaners and so on and so forth, and that's really big for us.
Okay. Now, I know a lot of companies, they put their name on the product, and SCHWARZ has never really done that.
No, not that I ever recall. About the only thing you'll find is urinal screens. If the guys are in the bathroom, they'll see our name on urinal screens. Other than that, we have our own line, which we call Affex. We belong to a buyer group called AFLink, and so there's chemicals and there's towels and toilet paper under that brand, and that's what we sell.
Okay.
Along with the major brands too, the Kimberly-Clarks and things.
We've talked a little bit about you. Your brother is very much involved with the company, and the two of you are in management there. Let's talk a little bit about your brother. He's kind of well known in this community.
Yeah, a lot of people know the name Knox Jones from the golf industry, I guess. Past state champion 2 or 3 times. He's 53 now, so he doesn't play like he used to. Won the senior amateur, I think 3 years ago when he turned 51, I think. He still, in fact, we played this last weekend, he shot 64. So he still hits the ball very, very well, and a heck of a lot better than myself or my brother or my father. But
okay.
yeah, he's ran the company since 2000 when Dad retired. His wife, Julie, is also in the business with us. She's our treasurer and secretary, does most of the purchasing for us. And then I joined the company in 2000 when my father retired. So.
Okay. Now, you grew up in Lincoln here, and the family, of course, has been here then all the time.
Since 61, we moved to Lincoln. That's when Dad joined the company. I was born in 62, so my entire life I've been here. My wife is from here. My kids both go here, and both these are University of Nebraska students.
Okay. Then I presume you're university graduates?
I graduated with a degree in construction management. The only time I've ever used my degree is building a house, but I've been with the family business since 2000. I ran Pine Lake Golf Course from 85 to last year, so that was one of my main jobs until I came to SCHWARZ.
Okay. Now, I found it interesting. Knox has a son who is an attorney, and his name is Knox.
That's true. We call him Little Knox. He lives up in Omaha. So far has shown no interest in joining the family business. I don't think he will. Knox and Julie also have a daughter, Holly, who lives out in Colorado right now. I don't think she has interest in joining the company, so we'll see where that goes.
Okay, so the family's been involved for 3 generations.
It has.
What do we see down the road in the future here?
Well, I guess I hope that my son or my daughter will show interest. My son is a 5th-year senior at the university. He's going to graduate in May. I don't think he'll join the company right away, but I would hope, and he's shown a little bit of interest. You know, with 21, 22, 20-year-old kids, I'm not sure where they think they're going, but
yeah.
I hope he does. If not, maybe my daughter will.
All right. Now, you've been at this same location for 100 years, things are changing down in the Haymarket.
Boy, aren't
what,
they?
what do you see there?
Well, it's kind of interesting as the Pinnacle Bank Arena has come online and the concerts are forever bringing people into the area, the new restaurants, everything else. It's getting pretty crazy down there. We have a hard time with our trucks and the semis that are delivering to us. We're blocking A Street a lot of times, which doesn't make a lot of people happy. Our building is for sale right now. There are a few people who seem to be interested. We would like to get out into the outskirts somewhere, and somewhere where semis can have a better access and we're not so bothersome down in the Haymarket area.
Well, I can understand that the viability of your business does not depend on it being in, a quote, the downtown or in the Haymarket area, that you're out of there. Okay. It's been interesting to me to learn a little bit, and I've learned some things as we've talked about the history of SCHWARZ paper. You think you might be moving out into the suburbs somewhere. You mentioned your son might possibly be interested, the future of the company. Is there new lines that are coming down the line that you would be taking on or something like that?
I think we're always looking for new ideas. SCHWARZ has changed obviously through the years from fireworks and toys to mostly just janitorial supplies now, office supplies. Those items don't come readily, just don't pop up on you, but we're always looking for new items and new ideas. And I can't imagine we're over 100 years old now and maybe it'll get to 200. That would be the goal, I guess, is just to continue to make a profit and keep the doors open. Okay, well, hey, Pat, thank you for coming and being on the Live and Learn show, sharing with us about SCHWARZ paper and about your involvement in the family business there. Appreciate you taking the time to be here, and Live and Learn will be back right after this. Thank you.
What does Medicare cover? How can I afford to keep living in my home? When I need help with house and yard work, who can I turn to? Why am I so tired? Am I eating right? Should I exercise? Where can I go for answers to my questions about aging?
Aging Partners is the place to call when you have questions on aging. Our experts are here to help you with unbiased answers for you or your loved ones. Aging Partners, we're only a phone call away.
This is Live and Learn, and my name is KRIS BECKENBACH. It's that time of year again. Not only are the leaves starting to fall, but it's time for Medicare Part D open enrollment. Our guest today is Houston DOAN, and he is the expert at Aging Partners in this subject. Welcome, Houston.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity, as always, to speak to you and to our audience on Live and Learn.
Great. Well, last year we saw some changes with the advent of the Affordable Care Act, and I'm sure as there's additional implementation this year, we're going to see more. Is that right?
Well, yes and no. Luckily, for our people on Medicare, the Affordable Care Act really has minimal impact on our beneficiaries in the Medicare system. Now, one of the positive impacts of the Affordable Care Act is by 2020, there will actually be the elimination of the gap in coverage or the donut hole in Medicare Part D. Now, that gap in coverage benefit will be closing slowly up to 2020. But really, this year, once you go into the gap in coverage, or the donut hole is what it's called, you will experience a 52.5% discount on your brand name prescriptions and a 22% discount on your generics, which will substantially lower your out-of-pocket costs during that donut hole. But the nice thing is that the bulk of the dollars spent for your brand name and your generic all goes toward your true out-of-pocket costs. And if you've been in the program, there are initial coverages, the gap in coverage, and then something called catastrophic coverage. That is when you reach a certain true out-of-pocket spending for your prescription drug plans, there's a safety net that kicks in, and you basically are responsible for 5% of the cost of the drugs. Your prescription drug plan picks up 95%. And that's been a godsend for many of our beneficiaries that find themselves in extremely expensive medication regimens, primarily cancer
Treatments
patients
and okay.
that. So, you know, but yeah, there are some changes coming, but by and large, the Affordable Care Act is primarily aimed at those 65 and younger.
Okay.
So really, we're not terribly concerned about the impact there. Of course, there are some big changes coming for people under the age of 65 and the Affordable Care Act. And of course, that's going to start in October as well. So there's going to be a lot of action at the Lincoln Area Agency on Aging, Aging Partners, and trying to get the right people into the right program. So it's going to be an exciting fall and early winter for us.
So is there a change in the deductible this year?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, because rarely do I get to deliver good news when it comes to Medicare benefits. Usually the deductibles go up, the monthly cost for Part B goes up. This year, the deductible will actually go down. It will go down to $310 in 2014. In 2013, it's $325. So we're going to experience a decrease in the deductible, which is great news.
That is great news.
Yeah,
it's great news.
Yeah.
How about the initial coverage limit? Will there be
Well,
an increase?
again, that will be going down as well, correspondingly. As I recall, it will go down approximately $120. I've got the exact figure here. It's going to go down from, well, about $200 really. It'll go down to $28.50. This year it's $29.70. I guess that is $120.
That is $120.
Yeah, and so the nice thing is that while we get a reduction in the deductible, we're going to reach the gap in coverage a little quicker.
Okay.
But again, the limits on the gap in coverage will come down, so we'll get into the catastrophic even more quickly this year. So by and large, it's a good thing.
Good.
For our beneficiaries.
Good. Yeah. So how frequently should a senior review their Medicare Part D coverage?
Well, I always encourage my clients to look every year. Now, human nature being what it is, you know, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But really, with Medicare Part D, it's not a bad idea to at least review every other year. And quite candidly, if you have not reviewed your Part D coverage in 3 years, last year we saved individuals on an average of about $300 or $400 a year by just reviewing their plans and making sure they were in the correct plan. So it's money in beneficiaries' pockets to do the review. And, you know, while it is time consuming, golly, for an hour of their time, we can probably give them $300 or $400. So those are pretty good wages.
Besides you, Houston, are there others at the agency that can help with that? Or?
Oh, yes. You know, we typically every fall during open enrollment, which is October 15th to December 7th, we have other people that do things like what I do. Neil Sandoz, as a matter of fact, is the other insurance and financial counselor. Also at Aging Partners, we have volunteers that come in. We kind of run a clinic, pretty much ongoing, that our beneficiaries can call in, get an appointment, come in, we can review their prescriptions. Additionally, people are blessed to be in Lincoln and Lancaster County because we have a wonderful senior health insurance information program, SHIP, run through the Department of Insurance, the Nebraska Department of Insurance, and they too offer clinics or opportunities for individuals to make an appointment, take their prescriptions in, and review. And those are really held all over the city, in the libraries, out at Southeast Community College, at about 86th and O. So there are some good opportunities. I know that Brian's 55 Plus program offers services as well for individuals that want to check on their Part D coverage. So there are some very good opportunities in Lincoln. I encourage all of our beneficiaries, please take a look. Sometimes they're in the right plan, but gosh, you know, if you're not in the right plan, you can really save a lot of money.
And all of these sources that you talked about are unbiased. They don't have anything to sell. They don't have anything to gain by steering you in one direction or another.
Absolutely. No one's going to be getting a commission or anything like that. That's correct.
That's great. Well, I know in our next issue of Living Well, there'll be an article about this.
Correct. A little more detail so people can understand a little more about what's coming along and what's going to happen.
So we're encouraging reviewing that article, making an appointment with a professional to get some, either with your office or with SHIP or with 55 Plus.
Yeah.
I know there's other communities and senior living communities that are hosting these seminars.
Right, yeah.
And how else could they, any other way to get advice?
Well, that's a great question. You know, it seems like today more and more seniors are computer literate. As a matter of fact, that's the fastest growing segment of computer users in America right now, are those 65 and older. There's a wonderful website, www.medicare.gov, and there's actually a tool on the Medicare website where you can go in, enter your zip code, enter your prescriptions, and you can check for yourself. That's a wonderful, wonderful resource. Or if you're like me, I have grandchildren that are really good, and you can prevail upon them to help you do that as well.
Well, that sounds like a nice gift you could give to a senior who's not computer literate.
That's
Just sit
true.
down and do that with
Yeah.
them. So they'd need all of their current prescriptions and what they're paying for them.
Right.
And they'd need their zip code. Anything else?
Really, to do the initial check, no. Now, if they do need to change plans, they would need their Medicare card, their red, white, and blue card, date of birth, address, phone number, simple kinds of things. And you can actually change plans on that website.
Excellent.
Which is a great opportunity for individuals that, you know, want to do it themselves.
Well, that's wonderful. So it's kind of a no muss, no fuss, but can save you
Yeah.
a lot of money.
It can save lots of money.
Is there opportunities to change other times throughout the year? Let's say your health situation changes and you want to change your coverage. Is that possible?
That's a great question, and thank you, because up to 2012, the very end of 2012, this program started in 2006. So for 6 years, no. Once you picked a plan, you were stuck with that plan, unless, of course, you qualified for help through the low-income subsidy or went on to Medicaid. Now, today, if you find yourself having to really take a hard look at your medications and will my plan cover them, and if that plan is not doing a good job, you do have the opportunity anytime during that year, this year or next year, to go into something called a 5-star prescription drug plan. Now, that's a rating that Medicare assigns prescription drug plans. It's based on a number of things, primarily customer service. But you can switch to a 5-star plan. In Nebraska, there's only one 5-star plan right now. It's Blue Cross Blue Shield. But you would have that opportunity anytime during the year to switch. And we actually have done that a couple of times for individuals that found themselves in basically dramatic, life-changing situations. Yeah.
So open enrollment, remind me again, runs?
October 15th through December 7th.
Okay. And then if you miss that window, you can still come in and
And
look at
pick
your
a
plan.
5-star plan, correct. yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to share with our viewers?
Well, you know, last year there were some nice changes. One of the biggest changes is that now Part D plans must cover barbiturates and benzodiazepines. So that has been a great benefit for a lot of our senior citizens.
So for our viewers, just really quickly, what's a barbiturate and what's a benzodiazepine?
Well, benzodiazepine could include things like, I believe Lexapro is one.
Okay.
You know, a barbiturate, of course, is for pain. You know, primarily they're used to treat epilepsy, these seizures, those kinds of things.
Okay.
And so that has been a real boon for a lot of our beneficiaries.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Well, Houston, it's been wonderful as always to gather all this information from you. And I would encourage our viewers to contact Aging Partners at 402-441-7070 and to look for that copy of Living Well magazine.
Thank you so much for the opportunity again to talk about Medicare Part D.
It's my pleasure. And Live and Learn will be right back.
Welcome back to Live and Learn. And the true meaning of Live and Learn is omnipresent today because we have some seniors, the string-alongs, senior violinists, up to the age of 80 who've been learning the Suzuki method of violin. We're going to share the joy of their music today. And here are the senior violinists, the string-alongs with Allegro. I want you to meet the lady who is responsible for our senior violinists, our string-alongs. Gentry Barrett is her name. And you got to tell me how this all got started and the nature of your involvement, Gentry.
When my husband and I first moved to Lincoln, I worked in the Office of College of Education and Human Sciences, where I met Dee Aguilar, who is the director of Ollie, and she was putting together classes for the Ollie semester, and I thought, you know, wouldn't it be interesting to start a violin group? My undergraduate was in music education, and I was teaching some violin students, but I had mostly started with children, and I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to start with this population? And Dee was slightly hesitant at first. She's like, I don't know, Gentry. We've never done anything like this before. I don't know if it's going to fill. But it did. We had 12 people in that first class, and then the next class, the next term rolled around, and we filled it again. And the people that you see performing today are those who have decided that they'd like to continue, and that they've continued for a while now. Our first class was in the winter of 2009. And so these guys have stuck along, and they've been learning a lot.
Well, I thought the Suzuki method, though, was for children.
It is. It was originally founded by Shinichi Suzuki in Japan, and his original thought was he didn't want to teach violin lessons and fix the mistakes of teachers in the past. He wanted to teach children from a very young age and teach them like they learned their mother language. He called it the mother language approach. By immersing them in music, and then they learned by ear, then they learned
that's
to
it,
play.
by ear.
Right.
Okay, well, we've got seniors here,
Right.
so we don't hear too well. So how do you learn by ear?
You know, and it was an interesting concept to approach with seniors, because with very small children you have the parent there in the lesson taking notes and being able to kind of reconstruct things at home. And so we tried a couple of different things with adults that didn't have that extra backup of a parent watching and reconstructing the lesson at home. But I think what really helped with the Suzuki method is that we didn't start with music, that we started learning by rote at very first. And so we would take, you know, careful notes of this note comes next and then this note comes next. But then eventually, because you're listening to a master recording all of the time, and my students can attest that I make them listen to it a lot, you start getting a connection between your ear and your fingers, that when I press down my finger on this string, this tone comes out. And I can hear it in my head what note's supposed to come next. And so you fiddle around for a little bit, but eventually you're able to construct whole phrases by ear just because you've been listening so much and you've been practicing consistently.
Well, how about memorization with regards to seniors?
You know, they do amazingly well with memorization, and you'll see when we play that we have everything memorized. We have two people reading off music. They're playing our harmony for today. But I'm very strict, to some dismay of my adult students, that we memorize everything. And I feel that memorization is good for everybody. It enhances brain learning, and it makes them really, really know their music. And something about the Suzuki method is that once, Dr. Suzuki always said that once the notes and the bowings were memorized, then you could really start working on the music. Then you could really make it musical. You had enough capacity of attention to pay attention to how can I make this phrase happen, and how can I make this more beautiful, and how can I make my posture appropriate to make this piece sing.
Now, you're working on a master's degree, and this is part of your studies and background, just so quickly synthesize that.
Yes,
for us,
I'm going to
you will.
UNL.
Okay.
I'm getting a master's degree in child development and early childhood education. And I find that even though the degree is in early childhood education and child development, it's helping me with all of my teaching, helping me break down things into smaller segments. It's helping me learning about different approaches to learning, and it's helped with all sorts of things.
Well, Vicki Harris is going to be the accompanist with the group today, and you offer classes, do you not?
Yes.
For kids and for seniors, and where are they located?
Correct. I work at Harris Academy of the Arts. We're on Pine Lake, right across from South Point Mall. Currently, my strings class is going on right now, but also there's a piano class there was an Ollie piano class that just ended. And the ones that want to continue on, they're taking a piano class there. There's also all sorts of classes for from as young to birth up to, I think our oldest string along is 80.
And what's your address and telephone number?
Our address is 2935 South Pine Lake Road.
So now we're going to hear more from the String-Alongs, and their song now is Song of the Wind. And now the String-Alongs once again with O Come Little Children. the senior violinist with the Minuet 1 by Bach. It's delightful to hear and watch these seniors play, and we're going to have now from Handel, the chorus. Gentry Barrett has done a great job of teaching our seniors. We're never too late to live and learn, that's for certain. And we're going to be taking our group, our wonderful string-alongs, out with, what is our final number, Gentry?
Andantino.
Andantino, here it is.